Alright, so I starting on the heads here, trying to reassemble all the valves and springs and the locks and all that. So I've got half of it done, half of one head done with my cheap Harbor Freight spring compressor, which is scaring the crap out of me. I've had it slip a couple of times on these springs, and they're pretty dang loaded. So I'll keep going. I'm just getting a little more careful with it just to see. It doesn't do a very good job of compressing the full spring. It only catches the first, 2/3, maybe half. So it's kind of hard to get it all the way in, and I have to kind of struggle to put the little rubber seal on there and then get the locks in. So I kind of almost have to put the seal on the first notch where the locks go and kind of use a screwdriver or a little pick or whatever I got floating around here, just to kind of push it down a little bit. And even the locks themselves, the valve locks, will push that little the little seal down a little bit more. So that's been helping a little bit, but coming along. And make sure at the end it's not going anywhere. It's tight and hit a little bit, and you should hear the back end of the valve kind of spring off, and it does. So I think they're right. I checked all of the clearances on the valve guides themselves. Everything there is good. Video I was watching said to get some 5,000 shim stock, brass stock, so I got a whole ton of that off Amazon because I couldn't buy just one small sheet. So I put that in there. Basically just keeps the valve from going in. Take it out, valve goes in fine. So just check the clearances on the valve stems and the guides. So all that's good. So yeah, plugging away. I'm gonna finish up this head, and then I don't know if I finish the head, I'll probably end up putting it on before I get to the next one, just to see how that process kind of goes. For now, I have not repurchased the oil pump bolts, so I've been kind of just flipped the engine over and started on the other side for now. Not a huge deal, but yeah, that's where I'm at. Alright, valves are in, one head is put together. Got my gasket on there. We're going to put the first of the heads on and bolt it down. Not going to torque it, whatever, but we'll get one side on and fixed, and then we'll kind of do the same thing, get all the valves and springs on the next one. Alright, your heads are on. I've got everything done except for one bolt. I had some notes because something was goofy on the right hand side here. My notes said 4th bolt missing, 5th longer than others, and this one had some washers on it. So I do remember one of these head bolts missing, so it's probably this one, but maybe I found it. But this 5th one, and I can see kind of the little wear marks around there where this washer would have gone. So clearly that is correct. I just don't know what it's for. I don't know if this is a mount, possibly for the generator that kind of comes off here, and then the water bracket, or the water pump. I just can't quite remember. So I'll probably have to do a little investigation into that, check my manuals. So my Easter present came early. Was not expecting it to show up this early, but I got an ultrasonic cleaner to clean whatever parts I have left for that. So I think I'm just going to test this guy out on all the rocker arms, and basically the whole rocker assembly I've got that I haven't cleaned yet. Kind of holding off. I ended up getting a 30-liter ultrasonic, basically the biggest ultrasonic cleaner I could get. On Amazon or whatever, but pretty big basket. I think overall it's a 12 by 9 deep and about 20 wide, so should be able to fit the entire rails and basically anything about that size that I kind of want to clean. But I've got my bucket of hot water. We got some LA's Awesome degreaser stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and give this guy a shot, but I'll show the basket filled up before I do it, and then we'll see how they end up in the end. Alright, I think this will be a good first run. I've got basically all the rocker components for one side of the heads. I went ahead and threw in 4 out of the 8 push rods, and I got some extra bolts, a couple of screws, bolts that I'd taken out of, you know what, I don't even know what this is called, so the engine galley cover, I don't know, it goes on the top. So this is going to be kind of the big test. So this is almost, it's got, like a little cavity in there. So I think, hoping this parts cleaner will you know, ultrasonically do something to do it, but this piece is bad. I have not taken anything to this and just touching it, and cakes of grease and tar and everything in there. So that will be a really good test. I'm gonna let this guy come up to temp. I don't know how hot it should be, so I'm gonna Google that real quick, but I'm gonna do half an hour, and then it'll probably take a couple runs, but I'm gonna do one, and then we'll see how it goes, and hopefully we'll see if this thing works, or if I've got to pre-clean a bunch. I was really hoping not to pre-clean anything, and they're really bad. So I don't know how well you can see it, but it's just caked with grease. Have not touched it with a rag or anything, so I'm going to kind of work these guys around, get a little space on all the sides, just so there's enough room. Got the springs, some washers, basically all the parts for the rockers. So we're going to try one, and if it works, you know, after a half hour or whatever, we'll take them out, but I got a feeling that big piece isn't going to make much progress, but we'll see. Maybe the little guys will go good. And if it takes another half hour, 4 hours, I don't really care. I'll just keep restarting it. She can only go a half an hour at a time, so we'll go. Yeah, it's certainly looking better. I'm not overly impressed quite yet, but I think these rods are starting to get a little clean. Those were pretty much blackened over. There's still quite a bit on them, so we'll just put this all back in here. I think I'm just going to do another cycle. You know, washers, certainly got a lot of it off. They were pretty much black, just covered in grease, and you know, there's still a little bit I can still feel on there, but we'll see. A couple of these rocker arms, they're still pretty carbon caked. You know, I don't know how much of that's actually going to come off, so we'll just toss her in for another half an hour. We'll see what it comes out as. Springs, I don't think those were too bad to begin with, but they're not looking too bad. Screws, bolts, yeah, you're alright. Certainly not clean perfectly, but I think we got a lot of the gunk off, so we'll kick her in for another half hour, just let her cook. That water is definitely pretty disgusting. Not terribly hot. I actually started at about 45 degrees and it's already kicked down another one. Set it for 60, I'm sure it'll take forever to heat up, so we'll just do another round, and we'll probably keep doing rounds. Give it another hour or so, and we'll see how it turns out. She's getting closer. Can't really see it too well, but most of the black char is starting to come off these, and I can actually see a little bit of the rust that was been sitting underneath it. So we'll keep going and see where we're at. Well, you know, they're getting there. I think all the little parts are okay. I mean, it's just not doing what I thought it would, you know. So it's getting some of the grime off of these, but I'm not terribly impressed yet. It's just these, you know, the threads are still just caked with stuff. I mean, it's not crusted on or nothing. It's stuff I can just get with my fingernail, and I can pop that stuff off. But you'd think it'd be working those threads a little bit better than it is. So, I don't know. And put them back in, and you know, I couldn't really see a whole lot it was even doing on this guy until I flipped her over and then noticed that's the end that was sticking outside of the water, because this whole thing doesn't quite fit in there. So I had to kind of, you know, angle it in just to get it in there, but that's the water line. So I guess I'm a little impressed with that. And that's just black caked on stuff, and then the water line, and then just silver. So there is a little surface rust on here, and you kind of rust all over, and maybe that's my problem. You know, obviously it's supposed to be cleaning, not derusting, but you know, inside of there's not a whole lot is done in there. I can still get junk off of my finger, but maybe I'll flip her upside down and let the ultrasonic get on that side. So maybe it's kind of hitting the outside, but the ultrasonic's getting stopped and it's not doing much on the inside, which is kind of what I was hoping it would do, is get that inside a little better. But go ahead, we'll dip that side in the water this time, and we'll dip it upside down. Actually, you know what? Let's do, no, you're right, let's do that. You can do that. Yeah, no. Let's do it down. We'll do face down, put that side in the water, and we'll see what it comes out like. Well, I just thought I'd do another update. I've got the most of the rocker arm assembly complete. And it worked okay, not quite as well as I'd hoped. You know, we got most of the gunk off, and there's a little surface rust just because I didn't dry everything quite perfectly. But the rods came out okay, and all the arms, they're all right. What did not clean good was the shaft itself. So this appears to be, like a 5/8 or 3/4 pipe, inside, but the ends are capped. So I don't know if you can see that, but it'd be super, super easy to clean this thing with a big pipe cleaner if I could get all the way in it. But both of the ends are capped, and they just have these cross bores for the bolts. So I went and bought, I was thinking drain cleaner or pipe cleaners, but they're kind of flimsy. And this one I found a little snake weasel thing, drain weasel, I don't know what it's called, but I basically stuck that in there and got a piece of, cut up a little piece of a rag, got it in there, and I got the one with the little crank handle. So I don't know if you can see it in there, but it works okay. It kind of spins, and just kind of push it down a little bit, spin it a little bit more. But as I'm pushing through here, we'll get it to the end. I don't know how well you can see that, but there's a big old thing of gunk. It's that silvery goop that I just can't do. Clean the surface okay, and most of these parts cleaned okay. It's that sludge, that 60-year-old silver sludge, and I don't know what that is, if that's lead buildup along with oil and grease and all that stuff, but that stuff just doesn't come off. It didn't come off in the parts cleaner. I must have blasted that thing for a few hours, at high heat or whatever, but it was not coming out. And then I tried just soaking it in some degreaser, and that didn't work. And then I tried spraying in carb cleaner, and that wasn't doing much. It just doesn't break down at all. So I figured I'm gonna have to physically get it out, and this little pipe cleaner thing might just be the ticket. So I'll run it through, and I'll keep spinning it as I go just to get the stuff off the sidewalls. But then I'm gonna have to pull it out, and then I'll pull it out and probably just keep cutting up little chunks of cloth and running it through. And then eventually, fingers crossed, we'll get the bulk of the sludge out, and every time I stick it in there and turn it and go all the way through, it should come out a little bit cleaner every time. So that's my plan. For all this work, I probably could have bought a new one. These shafts aren't terribly expensive, but I'll go ahead and clean it, and we'll see what I can do. Because I don't think it's, it looks like it's bad, but it's not really worn, so no sense buying a new one. So I'll keep you posted. How much goop? All the goop. This is just nasty. But that little snake thing's working. So I got her in there and just kind of twisting her around and packing it in, and all that shit's just coming out. So I'll keep at it. This one's the second one. So I got the second assembly kind of taken apart here, and now I'm just running the snake through it, trying to get that silver goop out. Let's see how it works. Alright, hot enough, in she goes. We were just at 60 a second ago, but 59 Celsius, probably hot enough. I don't know what it is, but it's pretty toasty. That liquid is just garbage, but I went ahead and put both the rods in there, the shafts for the rocker arms. Went through both of them with that little snake thing. Got them, I'm not going to say clean, but you can get most of the sludge out, so we'll run them again in here and see how they turn out. Got all of the rocker assembly for the right side, the bolts and springs, washers, and all the push rods, so I'm going to go ahead and run them through. We'll probably give them a couple runs, but hopefully they turn out like the other ones, which came out okay. A little surface rust just from sitting there, so I'll clean those up and we'll see how they turn out. Well, hopefully you can hear me okay with the parts cleaner kind of going over there, but here's my next project, is the oil pan. So, outside is pretty bad, but this was not the actual original one that went to that engine. That one's over here. I don't know if you can see that, but that's got a big ding in it, big dent. Probably leaks, but this is my next project. So there's metal chunks of something, parts probably, I don't even know. But I'm going to see if this thing cleans up. Get all that gasket off, scrape all of the sludge out. I think we're going to try. I know, it's looking really bad. So I'll see what I can do. Get all this stuff off the seals, and we'll see. And then eventually I'll have to find a nut for that. because I don't think it came with one, but all of that is going to be the same stuff that I scraped out of that engine in a previous 60 years of sludge coming out. Oh man, I decided to go with the spatula first, and that was probably the right choice. Man, that's just coming up. That's gross. That's that silver stuff. That's the same stuff I had in the rocker arms. I got to clean it right now. It just doesn't break down. And I think I talked to my brother. Yeah, one time we thought it's got to be something, the old gas, the old lead, something. But that literally just came up. I mean, like crop in a field, man. Just scrape her right up. Look at that. Ugh. Well, I'll keep going. But that ooey gooey is what I got to scrape out of this whole pan. Get all that out and then start scraping the sides, I think. So what's in your oil pan? I found it oddly satisfying to scrape that out, and it was pretty much like working with clay. I mean, this whole chunk is a giant hunk of essentially the consistency of clay. Came up a lot easier than I thought it would. But yeah, just kind of spatched her up and flipped her over just like I was, kneading some dough almost. Yeah, good stuff. So I went ahead and got these rocker arm shafts out of the parts cleaner. They still really didn't get too clean. It's a lot of surface stuff, like not so much wear, but kind of rust. So I went ahead and kind of polished up the other end and made it look pretty nice. I don't know how careful I really got to be with this rod. I mean, I'm not obviously shaving off a whole lot, but there's some parts that are still reflectively shiny over here, and pretty much on this side where I polished it, it's mostly just a dull finish, but got a lot of that rust stuff off. And it's a lot smoother, over here. You can really feel the differences, all the ridges that are worn in and whatnot. So I don't know if this is okay to do, but I went ahead and did it. So I'm gonna finish up the rest of this this rod, and then I guess we'll see. Alright, one rocker assembly done. Don't have them tightened up, just kind of finger tight here or whatever, but make sure they all line up with the valves, because there's a specific orientation of all of these little standoffs, and the rockers and the springs are kind of all different. So I believe I've got it right. Everything lines up pretty spot on every valve, so I think we're okay there. I'm not going to tighten it down or do the push rods. I'm not going to do any of that until I finally order, which I have not ordered yet, the oil pump bolt that I snapped off a while ago. I haven't gotten that. And I kind of want to get that on so I can get the pan on and the windage tray and all the bottom end stuff. So then up top I can get into lifters. I don't want to do the lifters yet because I want to get a lot of this filled with oil, just to make sure everything's lubed up real good for the lifters. And I can't do that if there's nowhere for the oil to go down. It'll just drip on the floor. So kind of pacing myself here, but I figured the rocker assemblies, I can get those cleaned up and get those on there. They started to flash rust kind of on the outside, so I went ahead and just kind of took some regular old oil, covered them, wiped them down with a cloth just to get the surface a little bit oily so it won't rust anymore. And yeah, that's where I'm at. So if you count one of my last videos, I had the oil pump off, and I was putting her all back together and sheared one of the bolts trying to torque it down. So the book said 40 to 45 pounds, had it at 40, snapped the head right off it. So I went ahead and went to the hardware store, picked up some grade 8 bolts. So if those snap, well, then I'm definitely doing something wrong. But I'm going to go ahead and torque these down. I just got them finger tight for now, but wish me luck on that.